Patience. Patience is the core of this business. The data doesn't come easy from analytics or any kind of system. It comes slowly. Analysis takes time. Don't jump into conclusion. You just really have to look at the data from different sides.
Hello and welcome to the Jumpstart podcast with Jeffalytics. I'm your host, Jeff Sauer. Today, for our 20th episode, we talk with Ivan Rečević, marketing technologist at large and the premier analytics specialist in Serbia. Ivan and I met at the Superweek conference in Hungary a couple of years ago and have kept in touch with each other ever since, most recently connecting over our mutual friend Uros. You might recognize Uros as the guy who edits each episode of the Jumpstart podcast and produces the awesome songs at the end of each episode. And if you haven't listened to the songs, I would definitely encourage you to fast forward to the end, starting at episode 13 with Angie Schottmuller, and listen to the awesome songs. But anyway, when talking about upcoming guest ideas, Uros said that it would be great to hear the perspective from somebody who is providing digital marketing services and analytics services in a small country, and then we could compare and contrast the challenges of dealing with a smaller population with those from the guests we've talked to that are in the United States. And so it turns out that there are many challenges associated with going after a smaller market, which in the case of Serbia is about a little bit over 7 million people. But the experience is actually a lot more similar than you would think. Now, I don't want to give away all the insights before we start the episode, so listen along and hear some great stories from both Ivan and me about what it is like to grow a digital marketing business and how it has emerged over the last 10 years, because we actually went through our journey at a pretty similar time. We recorded this episode while I was spending time in Washington, D.C., and it'll be going live right around the time I'm delivering a speech at the most recent Superweek conference in Jamaica. So it's coming full circle on the Superweek conference. This episode is sponsored by the periodic table of Google Analytics. Have you been following along as we release new periodic table of Google Analytics videos on our YouTube channel? We have some awesome learning coming out about 3 times a week. You can learn more at Jeffalytics.com, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/Jeffalytics. Now it's time to talk with Ivan Rečević. For show notes, visit Jeffalytics.com/Ivan. Okay, we're here today with Ivan Rečević. Ivan, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm really excited to talk to you because we've crossed paths a few times at like the Superweek conferences and on Twitter and pretty much everywhere since that point in time. And so we've been talking and sort of built up a friendship since then.
Yes.
And I really want to hear your journey about how you became the go-to marketing analyst technology guy in your home country of Serbia. And maybe that's overselling it, but
Yes,
I find that you are very well regarded in your country, and so I wanted to learn a little bit more about you.
No, thank you.
Let's find a starting point for this, and that is like, what was your first project that you were involved with, or what did you do that made you realize that either marketing or technology or even analytics is the right thing for you to be doing?
I have some corporate experience, or let's call it corporate jobs and some French corporations. So I built my IT experience there, but in one moment I felt it's not that. I don't want really to pursue the corporate career. And then I said to my, let's say, boss, I have to go really, and I want to build my own company. So I, let's say, established a consulting firm that is dealing with IT consulting. But in my region, in my country, Serbia, it's, let's say, a little bit on the map right from Italy. Mm-hmm. I was really enthusiastic about this, and I started the business. There was a first client, second client, and it stopped. And it was like, what should I do now? And I met on one lunch with my friends from high school, and the one guy was in, let's say, in web development business, and second one was in marketing. Let's say classic marketing like print advertising, TV advertising. And I was, let's say, in IT business. And we sat down and we just said we should do business together. And it was like, what should we do? And talking during the lunch, it was like, listen, everywhere in the world, digital marketing is coming up. and it's going to be big. And it was 2007, 2008, so it was like winter. And we said, okay, let's do it. And it took us something like 6-7 months to let's say, clear our jobs, clear our, let's say, obligations that we had to our companies, and we created the company. So it was a huge media. And we just started doing digital marketing. And so it was 2008, and it took us almost 6 years to get to some point that we can say, okay, we are the biggest company in the region. But when you have so many countries, small countries, you think you're big, and you're big in your country. But when you compare to some other countries in the region, you say, okay, not really that big. We are okay. So it took us some time. And this is how I got involved in digital marketing. So just using my IT knowledge, programming knowledge, let's say systems knowledge, to incorporate this technology into marketing. So, as I said, this is the short version. There's a longer one, but I don't believe we have the time for this.
Should I call you more of like a marketer or more of like an analytics or just either one? Or
I'm still struggling with this because analytics, I do it for the last couple of years. I'm in marketing for like 8 or 9 years. But I'm the IT guy. I came from IT, let's say, administration part, and I moved through the corporate hierarchy to become IT manager and then quality manager and so on. I mean, I did a lot of things, and then one moment I established a company that deals with digital marketing, and that was the start. So I just used the IT knowledge in the world of marketing.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me that obviously part of it is just recognizing the need, right? And that was a time, I remember, I'm trying to think back to that time, 2007, 2008. That was right around the time when I started joining my agency as well. And that was a 4-person, I was the 5th person at that agency. And we were like looking at marketing automation, Google AdWords, all these different areas, and saying, this is the future. This is where people are going. And there's nobody who can provide any level of service there. And so it's basically looking at these opportunities, getting the feedback from what customers are looking for, looking at the trends, and then it's like, okay, well, we can turn this into a business.
So basically, your market really demanded the service. And this is, for me, a really, let's say, great starting point. Because at that time, here, where I'm now, it was like nobody took care of it. Nobody knew that they need some kind of service or support regarding digital marketing. It was like we were building the demand, showing some advanced solutions that were really advanced for the, let's say, worldwide audience, but we could not really jump out of our country. We were just doing it locally.
Yeah, so did you ever go outside of your country, or was it always within your country?
Within our country, we had some international clients coming to us looking for, let's say, cheaper service. But at the end, it was like, let's say, same fee as they would pay in the United States or in UK.
Okay.
So, but at the end, people saw the value in it, really. So at the beginning, it was like cheaper, but afterwards, when we started bringing value, and this was, let's say, our basic model of work. We were always a performance-based agency. So we were never working on branding. It was not our, let's say, core feeling. We really wanted to bring the value. And this is something that distinguished us from any other agencies that were coming into market.
So so you basically, 3 people banded together and said, we can do this, and we can do this as well or better than others. We can do this as the same as what people are doing internationally. We can do all this, and we're going to do it. How was like the process of getting clients? How quickly was it difficult to sell people on the need to do what you were providing, or was it an easy sell? How did that part work?
Oh, it was a very hard sell. It was like it didn't work really. We tried with AdWords. We tried with some online ads. It didn't work. So actually, we employed, let's say, first employee. He was our sales guy, and he was really going door. So he was looking at billboards in the city or on TV, and he was identifying clients and going door to door.
Okay.
And this was the only way, because nobody was aware of this. The companies that needed, let's say, online advertising were going to some, let's say, old agencies that were selling AdWords with a fixed price. And they could select, let's say, 5 keywords to be attached to, and they would pay a fixed amount of clicks. And it was like, no. I mean, Google was not really aware of it because they were not present on the market, but agencies did this. And we were just going afterwards saying, okay, you don't have to pay that way. We will do the keyword research for you, and we're going to do it properly.
Yeah, that was a very dark age in the whole online world, right? Where like traditional advertisers would do this whole flat rate. We guarantee you rankings and keywords and Google, which was, then they'd pay for it. But then they also, like the phone companies in the United States did that as well. I'm not sure if your phone companies did that, but basically charging people way too much money for no results at all. It was an old model. It was the model that worked for a telephone book where you just being there was enough. And then
the same thing.
Yeah. And then you see this opportunity where that's not enough. It's not enough to just be present. We need to think about what's the result, like what is the performance. And so I like that you talk about being, into performance marketing. I don't think we've talked about that on the podcast before. So how would you define what performance marketing is?
So for me, I mean, my company at that time, it was like, we want to bring you sales. We were always talking about sales, more leads, more sales, more value. And we were just like explaining, educating the clients, and the performance marketing for me is we bring value. We bring measurable value from day one. And it was hard, really. It was really hard to set up the technology properly in order to measure everything. So it was a long time for setting up, and also a long time to get the clients understand the value. But it came really quickly. Let's say from first e-commerce clients, and when I say e-commerce, I'm not talking about the systems with the shopping cart, payment processing, and so on, but the e-commerce with the add to cart, and that's it. You just or people are calling you back to confirm the reservation and sending you the product.
Interesting. Yeah, sounds like we were building our agencies up in the same exact time frame. So it's sort of cool to sort of compare how it was in the United States to do it that way. In Serbia, very, very similar, yet probably, there's probably some subtle differences, but we're all trying to do the same thing. Because I remember, I don't know if I even knew the term performance marketing back in 2008, 2009, but our sales team would just say, hey, if you don't like working with us, if we can't add value, just fire us. We're happy to walk away. We put an out clause for you in the contract. We put an out clause for us, because if we don't think you're good enough, we're going to leave you too. And there's certain people. At first, people are shocked by that. Like, oh my, this is crazy. Like, I've never been talked to this way. And then a few people will bite off on it and just take a chance, because it's like, well, what do we have to lose? Like, we can just fire them. And then those people were like, this is great. I'm getting a report that shows me how I'm doing. You're focused on things. You're listening to the phone calls we generate. You're doing all these things that I had never knew was possible. And we can still fire you if we want to. And some of those people are like, they're still clients. Like 5-10 years later, these people are still involved because they had never been talked to that way. But the other thing that was nice is that they ended up telling their friends. And that's how a lot of the businesses, that's how our business took off, was basically somebody, and just anybody who's looking to get into marketing, listening to this, or hasn't been through several cycles of marketing, you see the same people over and over again in this business, because you might work with them at one company, they might get a new job somewhere else, or they might get let go, or they might move on to somewhere else, and they'll bring you in. And so a lot of our business came from people who were clients wanting that level of service again. They wanted the performance, and it just kept on growing and growing. And that was really a big part of how our business grew. And I'd imagine it's similar with you too.
True. Yes, definitely. But I can tell you one thing. Maybe this would sound maybe a sexist, let's say, word that I'm going to tell now, but I'm a man, so I'm interested in women. So, which women do you remember the most? The ones who were easy with you, or the ones who were really hard with you? So So when you put yourself in front of the client and you're hard to the client and you offer the client possibility to be hard on you, I mean, you stick in their brains and you can continue the business.
Yeah, I mean, you're creating a relationship, right?
Oh, yes.
And that's
good relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a relationship based on the right things. And it's funny because I got into this business during this time. Like, I didn't have any history where I had to tell people the wrong thing. And so it's like, it's so intuitive. Like, why wouldn't you only tell clients to do the right thing? But who knows? I don't really have an answer for that. But it seems like it's intuitive to both of us that we should be providing the answers people want and doing the best for them, because that's really who's important here.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you were able to grow this business doing that, right? By doing good and doing that. And over the course of like 6 years, you said that you went from just 3 people starting this up to the biggest company.
We had something like 20 people, but we tried to scale the business, and it was really hard. I mean, the margins were really low. I mean, the budgets were low, so the margin was low normally, and we tried to incorporate different services like social media, production of websites, landing pages, analytics services. So try to implement as much as possible of services to offer to clients, to be, let's say, full service digital agency. And it took its toll, really, because it took a lot of time incorporating new people, not being able to scale everything as we planned. I mean, when we were looking at the different markets from UK, United States, how the market grew and the companies, how they grew, let's say in the same company types, we were really behind. So if there was a growth in number of people and turnover in companies, if the year over year the growth was, let's say, 40-50%, in Serbia it was like 15-20%, and so it was hard, really hard. So, but at the end, at the end of 2015, we really went to doing really core services like AdWords, analytics, measurement, and some light social media, and that's it. We really, let's say, cleared out the clutter that we had with services.
Yeah, that's another conclusion we had too, was like, you can't scale if you're trying to do everything.
Yeah, definitely.
In the U.S., they call it the jack of all trades, master of none, and I think that's a pretty accurate way to put it. Is that an agency, generally it's a few people with an idea, just like what you're talking about, and then to turn that into 20 people with ideas. Usually there's some kind of drop-off along the way, and it's not that the other people aren't capable. It's more that you can only be great at so many things, right? You can be really good at these things, and then the other stuff, it's just like opportunistic. It's like if somebody says, hey, can you do this? Then you do it, but it's not necessarily the best thing to do for your business.
Yeah. While we were trying to structure things and to have some automation or real good scaling, actually, the biggest revenue came from one-shot projects, some really advanced projects in either social media or some, let's say, virtual reality or how to call it, special projects for some corporate clients. Mm-hmm. So basically, we were feeding the company with money coming from special projects, trying to survive, but. It's smaller market, smaller budgets, and at the end the fee and some performance, let's say, results are still small to cover the costs.
Yeah, that's something that I'm curious about. Is it's a smaller pond, and so there's just not as many clients to go through. Like there's only a few people that do each type of project that you can work with, and then also there's probably just not as much of an investment in it. I'd assume that companies aren't investing the same amount of capital into these websites as like the U.S. might do it, but I'm not sure about that. Is that true? Is that?
Yes, it is. I can tell you, it's for us. It was, let's say, clear after a year. It's like if you have a client who lives out from website, so who is selling something on a website, and this is his primary channel, so he's living out of sales. He's going to invest like hell. So he knows that this is the way how he will survive. And most of the businesses are brick and mortar, as they say here. So not many people are using online as their primary source of income. or revenue. So basically, we still don't have that big number of e-commerce sites to work with. As I said, still we don't have the real good processing of cards. I mean, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, whatever. So this is the biggest, let's say, problem. So United States was there, let's say, 6, 7, 10 years ago. We're still, let's say, in Stone Age about this. But again, you learn a lot. You know how to overcome these problems when there is no payment processing, how to handle this. And you learn a lot. You get to know how to overcome the problem. And this is, for me, the best experience that you can have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a creative problem-solving exercise is to be able to solve problems that don't have ideal scenarios.
Yes.
And I think that, I mean, another big thing is just a lot of the U.S. e-commerce companies, they were able to be invested in by third parties who were fine with them not turning a profit for the first 5 years. And that you have a completely different attitude towards money when profit's not the only thing. Whereas it's a business owner who this is their entire life, they're not going to put their life savings behind it necessarily when it's not proven yet that people can do it or that that's going to be effective. And so that can be a challenge as well. And so I think that a lot of it is just finding what people's real problem is then, and then being a problem solver for them.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you at this moment, the biggest, let's say, business clients are publishers, the companies that have news, they produce content, because they understand that the biggest income they can, let's say, rely on is coming from online. But when you see the analytics, they are set up for advertising, online advertising, it's in a mess. So they know that there is a money, and they know that it's not optimized. And there is, let's say, no processing, no e-commerce, but there is money for doing business. So you don't have necessarily all the possible revenue streams, but things are coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that, and also you can create a good living as well, and that type of stuff. So that's also an important piece of all this, is that it's not always about being the biggest. It's about being the best at what you do and creating the lifestyle that you want.
Definitely. I mean, at this moment, the company is, let's say, smaller. I'm not anymore in the company. I sold my shares to a partner. So one of the original 3. So I sold my shares. So I'm now independent marketing technologist. And but still, we still work together because there are some really special plans that really need our service, integrated service from analytics and AdWords point of view. So we're still doing the job together.
Yeah. Great. So question about, so obviously you had told me earlier that you're in the you started out with more of an IT background.
Yes.
And then, but also you're good at AdWords. I've seen you at analytics conferences. You're asking really smart questions and have been there. You can tell you've been there. How did you take this passion or this IT piece? How did you apply that to these other areas and become good at, become an expert in those areas as well?
The knowledge. I mean, I really want to know how things work. I'm really passionate about technology. I really want to know how it works. And I was into analytics a long time ago, from, let's say, 2006, 7. Mm-hmm. I did some small help to Google teams that were working in Serbia, and I was involved in all different things like AdSense, analytics, and so on, but never that hard. And when I started the company, marketing company, I got involved much deeper, but still, I can tell you the moment I went to first Superweek 3 years ago, it was like life-changing event. I finally started to understand how things really, really work. And when it was like, once I've seen your periodic table, it was like, okay, there is a pattern. There is the, let's say, clear, there is a system behind it. Until then, it was like, okay, we just use analytics, we read some data, and that's it. I think I know how to use it. But after that first Super Week, it was like, no, this is a totally different story here. And I started digging into analytics, in the programming, how it really, really works. And now I feel I'm really good. I would say for my country, I'm the expert. For you, let's say, I'm not at your level.
That's debatable.
Okay, but I can tell you, you learn through projects.
Yes.
And I didn't have that many projects. I mean, when I look back at my tag manager implementations from, let's say, a year ago or 2 years ago, I'm a little bit ashamed.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to optimize in the last couple of months to bring it up to the quality that I have now.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, learning new things, and this thing is really mind-blowing. I mean, I also, because of the corporate background, I have background in BI systems. And for me, this is the holy grail. Because with BI systems, you know really what's going on after somebody becomes a customer. Mm-hmm. But how he became a customer, this is something that web analytics, web intelligence, I would like to call it that way, is bringing value. So once you understand your clients, how they behave once they are clients, and how they become clients, you can really get, let's say, patterns. I see patterns in data that I'm collecting right now for some clients. It's like you can really adapt your business plan. You can adapt your marketing efforts in such a way that you can be really advanced compared to competition.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, and I think that's a few things of what you're talking about. Is the first one is that I think that also teaching other people how to do these things, it's been amazing for me to solidify my knowledge, because you know these things, but until you can explain it to somebody else, it doesn't really matter what you know. It's really that art of taking all the stuff in your brain and then turning it into something you can share with other people. That's really the art of all this. And so it sounds like by doing some trainings, you're able to solidify your knowledge that way.
Yes.
And then the other thing is that web analytics is in a vacuum, just alone. Web analytics, like looking at traffic sources, looking at the stuff you have in Google Analytics, even goal tracking and stuff like that. It is so underwhelming to the rest of the company when there's all these other functions that are going there, like understanding customer lifetime value, understanding what's the predictability of somebody purchasing again, who are our core customers, who are the ones who would buy from us whether we did any advertising at all. Web analytics, and especially, I do a lot of Google Analytics stuff. It doesn't really answer those questions. And so a lot of what I've been doing is challenging people to ask business questions, not answer questions based on what's in your tool. Because really these tools, they tell us one thing, and it's really an agenda that advertising is the center of the universe. And who benefits from that? That's Google, because they're the largest advertising company online. And so you come into this thing with this free tool and the paradigm that everything is all about clicks and impressions and page views, when in reality, the business owner, all they want is to know how many sales am I going to get tomorrow? Because how many sales am I going to get? How much money am I going to make? And can I afford to pay everybody that we have on the payroll? And Google Analytics doesn't answer that. But business intelligence suites, what you're talking about, the BI suites, they can get you to that point. Now, that's taking you from like a 5-minute install of Google Analytics to like a 5-month digging into data implementation project. But that's really like, there's so much beyond what most companies are doing. And the other thing that's interesting, and maybe you can speak to this, is that the business intelligence teams don't talk to the web analytics teams. And so it takes somebody like you who's been on both sides, or me, I did data marts and stuff like that too, that can really bridge the gap between these two disciplines.
Yes, I tried in the last couple of months to approach some BI companies in region to try to get to, let's say, have some kind of business relation with them. But it's like, no way. They don't understand it. They don't see the value in it. The BI companies that are doing implementations for telecom companies, it's like, we don't see the value there. Because it will just increase the complexity of whole system. All kinds of things that happen there in BI, they have to deal with it day by day. And plus, if you want to incorporate web analytics into this, it's going to be hell. But I can tell you, I had a few weeks ago, one of my students at university had some issues. He's working for U.S. clients on some financial, they're providing financial services, and he was like, what to do? And we come up with a solution because they have it of the chain. They have a call center doing some sales, just to forward the GLID from AdWords to incorporate in the customer call center and measure conversions, to connect the conversions from call center to AdWords.
Yeah.
And it was like, we can do this? Yes, you can. And they did it in like 2 days. And it was like, I don't know, the guy is asking me how much we should pay you. I mean, this is mind-blowing. For me, that's something that they were not aware of it. So they know how to measure from the, let's say, BI side, of call center side, how it works, but they never did the connection between two systems. And for me, the connecting systems and exchanging data is the core of the performance.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite part of all this is connecting those dots, taking something that people just don't, that either aren't exposed to or don't think about, and making that stuff work. Yeah. Integration, taking two different things and making them better. That's what I've been giving this talk lately about analytics and automation and stuff like that. And Zapier is a great tool because it does that. It takes things out of one system and pushes it into another. Or even, like you said, taking the GCLID, the auto tagging parameter from Google AdWords and just pushing that forward. That's brilliant. I have actually never done that myself, but I can totally see the value in doing that. And I think that's really what a consultant can do, right? A consultant understands a product so deeply that they can provide solutions, or they're resourceful in finding those things. That's a hard project. It's hard to do more than one of those, right? Because you have to be so involved with it, versus like more of like somebody who's doing analysis or reporting. They might not focus on that area. Yeah, so really, that's interesting. Like the consulting business is a fascinating one because you're always creating solutions that are just like revolutionary for that business.
Yes.
But it's also very high touch. Like it's a lot of hours in order to make that happen for them.
Oh yes. And this is the size of the market. I mean, I had talked with Stefan Hamel here from Imeria. He's Canadian. You know him, yeah.
Yep.
So it was like he's from Canada, and we were talking about the market in Canada and the United States. It's like, okay, in the United States we have over 300 million people, and each small or medium-sized company can afford the analysts. And Canada, 1/10 of that amount of people, and each company can afford 1/10 of the analyst. So it's like you must have the market to sell your services. And of course, if the market is there and the people they want to grow the business, and United States is the place to be from my point of view. And also the country, I mean, mentality of the people must be tuned to the consulting, because here consulting is like something really reserved for foreigners. So foreign consultants in Serbia work well. Local consultants, not really.
Interesting.
So
Why is that? Is that just an attitude towards it, or is it just an observation, or what?
It's a fact. I mean, I met a lot of consultants from different areas, from sales, from logistic consultants. They came out from big corporations in Serbia, and they started their own companies here, and they ran out of business because there is no demand, and they cannot really reach the big companies that they have the need for consulting. And they moved outside of Serbia. So they're consulting in Scandinavian countries, Western Europe, but their core operations are here. They have, let's say, good workforce, educated workforce, and they just do the service outside of Serbia.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the biggest challenging job I had was in Scandinavia with the e-commerce sites, and also in UK. That challenging jobs are really pushing your mind further on. And in Serbia, there are not that many clients. I can count 2 or 3, like airline company, big gaming company from Serbia called Nordeus, and that's it. Everyone else are just not there. They don't live from online sales.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think it's going to take in order to change that? Is it more like the banking part that you're talking about, that people can process credit cards and to make that easier, or is it just that's just how it is?
Well, we're a specific position due to the, let's say, GDP. It's a problem of money in country. So people are buying outside of the country on Amazon or eBay or somewhere else. They are aware of that they can use their cards, but they're not trusting the local brands or local sites. So if I would offer software as service inside Serbia, everybody would be concerned about the privacy. But they would have no problem putting data on Amazon or Google, put their old documents there. But if I would sell the local service, it would be like, no, you're not going to comply with privacy policy, or you're going to read my data and so on. So it's a matter of trust, really. People are not really trusting local brands.
Well, hopefully that changes. But that's
I hope also.
It's going to take a fundamental shift to get there.
Yes. The money, people must learn to spend money to earn something. I mean, the businesses must learn to if they live from internet, they have to spend money in order to get more clients.
Yeah. Are there any advantages to marketing in such a small market? Are the cost per clicks lower? Is it easier to reach the people you want to reach? Is there advantages at all to marketing in such a small environment?
It was in past. Right now, it's going nuts. I mean, for instance, you know about people who are moving stuff from one place to another, like renting vans, moving furniture, and so on. Mm-hmm. So, like 3 years ago, the cost per click was like 2 or 3 cents. Right now, it's $5.
Oh man!
And but it's not normal. I mean, the people who are doing these campaigns are just pushing more and more money, not optimizing campaigns. Mm-hmm. It's like they're doing a brute force approach to AdWords. Yeah. So yes, there are, let's say, more money spent, but it's spent, I believe, not in optimized way. So, but you learn a lot. I can tell you, we are really doing all kinds of, we could call it advanced stuff. That I haven't seen it in the United States. I was for the last 2 years as a company. We won some awards from Google and some online challenges, and we went to the United States and we met U.S. companies that also won the same trophies. We spoke about the business, how it works, what they are using, what we are using. Like, I'll show you mine, show me yours. Data, and it was like U.S. agencies are using some, let's say, core metrics, like how many calls, were there conversions from calls, like basic things that are offered through Google telephone numbers and so on. Yep. But some advanced stuff for like remarketing, some dynamic remarketing that we are doing, nobody uses this actually. It was really strange for me because you have so many opportunities and tools are coming first in the United States and then they're coming to the rest of the world. That they are not using it. It was, for me, really strange. Why don't you use this? You can grow the business. Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny that's a really good observation, and I think that I've seen that a lot too, and that is the bigger the budget, the bigger the perception that they need a big agency to handle it. But then, as we talked about earlier with scale, you can't really scale beyond a certain number of employees and be competent and have the process in place. And so these bigger companies, they're not really... Either they're just scaling with number of people, but they're not really optimizing, or they don't even know that they need to optimize because they just have such a high budget. They're like, why optimize? If our budget is $1 million a month, what are we optimizing? I just need to get $1 million spent. And so, those are the ones who, by all metrics of Google, and I've been a victim to this several times, is that we were once one of Google's fastest growing agencies, and then we were no longer, because that changes all the time. And we got all the love from Google and got invited to their, I've been to Google 10, 15 times now, all over the US. But and then eventually you just get cut off because you don't hit some kind of growth number. But eventually it all sort of like becomes a popularity contest, and the agencies that are having the biggest budgets, the ones that we're talking about that aren't really that efficient, they're the ones who get to go to these things.
True.
And so there are good agencies in the United States, but it's usually a handful of people, or like a 5-10 person team, 20 person, versus these other ones are like thousands of people that are working there trying to do that. That's one of the problems that the U.S. market faces, if you want to call it a problem. But it's when it's sort of the opposite problem of what you have. Is like if you have, you're talking about getting 20 people with 1/10 of the budget that might be in the U.S. and sustaining and everything. Well, if you have 20 people with 10 times the budget, then you sort of have the opposite problem.
Yes, true.
So there's probably some kind of equilibrium in between with efficiency and all that stuff. That I think that there is, that you can achieve that, but it's a lot more difficult on both ends. Actually, when you're at one extreme or the other, it creates a whole different set of challenges.
True. I can tell you, at one moment we noticed that we cannot really scale the business in like you have 20 or 30 people just doing AdWords. It was not sustainable. It was not easy to maintain. So we went to, let's say, a boutique way of work. We you do the campaigns, you do the analytics by hand. You really do use your craft in order to get the best result, and it proved well. I mean, the clients are still there, budgets are increasing, and this skill that we developed over the years is really proving useful. I mean, people are satisfied, and the job is done, and everybody are happy. So we cannot really scale, but we do the really good job, and we feel good about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time. What would you, obviously you sort of created your own career in this area. Do you have any advice for other marketers looking to get into this whole marketing technologist role, maybe have some background similar to yours? What would you ask them to do, or what would you tell them to do as advice to get started in 2016?
Oh, that's a hard question because you and me, we are, let's say, similar age. So the catch is we had the opportunity in that past, in last century, to go through all kinds of technologies, we could touch 3D modeling, we could see how programming works on some, let's say, basic level. We had opportunity to see all kinds of technologies, and this stuck in our heads somewhere. And now when we see the system or we see the problem, we can solve it very, very quickly. We have, let's say, big background. Mm-hmm. For this marketing technology job or consultant job, I believe you must have some mileage. You must have some time spent absorbing technologies or absorbing systems, understanding how they work. And now it's so much easier to get the information. You can really find really good central points of knowledge on the internet, from your education courses, from Google side. Everywhere there are, let's say, good sources of information that you can collect and absorb the information very quickly. 30 years ago, if you want to learn how to play the guitar, it would take you several months. Right now, you can do it in a couple of weeks. It's just the way how to learn things. And new marketing technologists or consultants just dig in technology, understand how they work, learn the lingo, learn let's say the keywords of digital marketing to understand how things work. Try to put yourself in the position to touch enterprise level solutions, because what I've seen in the past is like we were all doing jobs or projects with something which is used by civilians. Civilians use AdWords or Google Analytics. But if you try to do something really, really big, you must touch Google Premium or Google 360 degrees. I mean, you have to touch Ad Exchange. You must see odometry. You must understand how DMPs work and so on. These kind of things. Just to understand how it works and where it is in ecosystem. When you know this, you can really adapt when there is a client who needs some support for DMP or Google Premium. I will call it Premium because 360 is too long to say. But again, just put yourself in a position to learn a lot. I mean, you can learn so much in such a short time, and try to see the best case, find the case studies, how things were connected, how things work, how the data is exchanged. I mean, once you go into online advertising, but on the publisher's side, it's totally different story. I mean, I know about AdSense, but a few months ago I had to cope with AdExchange. Totally different story. Or DoubleClick.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's like Japan. Totally different planet. So basically, the new people coming into industry try to absorb the knowledge as fast as possible. Put yourself in a position to work with some systems. Test it, spend some money. You have to spend the money. See how you can exchange data with CRM systems or MailChimp or email systems, whatever there is on the market. What is, let's say now, something popular. See how it works, how you can connect things. So this is basically what I would do if I would start the job today.
Mm-hmm. You got to get exposure. There's no doubt. Yeah. You need to see as many systems as you possibly can, but you also need to have a big picture point of view, is to say, here's how it all works together, because that's that integration that's really important to this whole thing. The other thing I'd say is think like a business owner as much as you can. To say, if this is my business, what would I need to do? Because I think that a business owner doesn't think the same way as a consultant does in many cases. A consultant wants to have the optimal solution, whereas the business owner wants the solution that is the combination of cheapest and done. You know, that doesn't have any leaks in it. You know what I mean? So I think that there's some importance to that too.
So 2 years ago, I was in a taxi in San Jose. I was going to some mall, and I tried to talk to taxi driver. It was nice talk, and you can always get a good talk with taxi drivers. We didn't use the Uber, but taxi was okay. So we spoke about the hotel we were in, and he said, okay, there's a concierge there working, and he's really into hospitality industry. He really cares about people. And this is, for me, the trigger to think about the service as a consultant. You really have to love your clients. I mean, to really understand. Yeah. When you love them, when you want to help them, when you want to grow their business, also beside your business, obviously you have to grow your business. But if you care about his business, how he will grow it, you're on the right path. I mean, even if you do some mistake or there is some error, the client feels this and he can, let's say, overcome your problem.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a relationship. This whole business is about relationships, right? And I think that I've said this a few times, but I'll say it again here. And that is that on our websites, every consultant, every SEO, every analyst sounds the exact same. We have the same keywords, fighting for the same attention, same stupid stock photos. We all sound the exact same at the end of the day when it's in written form. What people choose, they choose to work with your agency or you as a person because they want to work with you.
Yes.
Because they're interested in working with you or that person because they want to go through that journey with you. They want to be there with you. They want to have somebody who they feel is on their side, like a partner, not necessarily a vendor. And so like that's the best thing you can do in the agency and consulting business is to become a trusted partner, not to be treated like a vendor, and not to treat them like they're just a paycheck. It's really that I'm interested in what you have to say, and I'm going to make you shine. Like I'm going to do my best to make you look like a hero.
The trust is the core of everything.
Yeah. I've been calling it taking like a long view of the world, right? Like you could charge somebody more money and make a quick buck, but you won't be employed into the future. And I've seen a lot of consultants, I've seen a lot of people just raking it in during the good days, and then they make no hay and they have to go back and get a job. They're begging me for jobs because the money train dried up, and I've seen it happen so many times, and I'm not in. I don't want to have to go back and beg for that. I want to do it right. I want to do right by the people I talk to, and it sounds like you're the same way.
Yes,
definitely. And I think that's really good advice for everybody else who's listening.
Whoever wants to go into this, I made myself a problem once I moved from corporate environment. I didn't make a big, let's say, reserves of money. So I was really pushed into marketing because I was looking for a job and I really didn't want to work for anybody else. So this is why we established the company, and I was really running out of budget or reserves, and it proved well. We really put our, let's say, mind and trust and loving of clients into the job, and it paid.
That's great. Well, I think that's a good point to end our conversation. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share with people, or anything else you wanted to add?
Patience. Patience is, they say that it's a virtue, but also patience is the core of this business. The data doesn't come easy from analytics or any kind of system. It comes slowly. And analysis takes time. You need patience. Don't jump into conclusion. You just really have to look at the data from different sides, because it can really put you in a bad position if you don't read the data properly, and you need time. So always reserve time for digging deep into data.
Absolutely. Take a long view of all this, right? Because it'll be there tomorrow. Nothing's as urgent as it seems, but do the best you can possibly do, and that does take time. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining me today, Ivan. It's been really awesome to hear your perspective on growing a business in a smaller market.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward for your podcast, and also for everything you do. I mean, I really learn a lot at looking at your courses, everything that you're working on in the United States. I would like to have this on my market also. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you producing it for your market too. So that's great.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a different world between the U.S. market and Serbia, but there are far more parallels than you might think. The path to discovery is the same no matter where you may be focused. We generate ideas, go after clients, and try to get companies excited about this world of digital. It takes time to build relationships, but when you build those relationships, it can pay off for years. Thanks to Ivan and Uros for bringing this perspective to the podcast. For show notes, visit Jeffalytics.com/Ivan.
Engineer, marketeer, analyst, strategist, business consultant, WordPress contestant. You gotta be it all. You gotta be it all.